Everyone thinks World War I began with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. But what if that was just a cover-up? In this spine-chilling exposé, we uncover a long-buried secret, a forbidden occult ritual performed by a secret society just days before the war began. Hidden in the shadows of European aristocracy, powerful elites sought to summon an ancient force to reshape the world. But something went horribly wrong. Throughout the conflict, strange and disturbing things began to happen. Soldiers on the front lines reported seeing dark figures moving among them, whispering to officers who then committed bizarre acts of bravery or cowardice. Civilians spoke of sinister-looking men in robes directing the war with unseen forces. And when the war ended, the world was forever changed. But what does it all mean? What really happened in Sarajevo? Who were the robed figures seen in the royal palace weeks before the shooting? And why did soldiers on both sides report seeing dark figures on the battlefield? This is the story they never wanted you to know. World War I was one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. As the 20th century dawned, Europe was a powder keg of competing national interests, economic rivalries, and long-standing feuds. When Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, was assassinated in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, it seemed like a tragic but inevitable catastrophe had struck. But what if there was more to the story? What if the war wasn't just about politics and power, but something much darker, something they don't want you to know? As the shockwaves of the assassination reverberated across Europe, a small group of individuals gathered in secret. They were the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a secretive society dedicated to the study of the occult and the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. For years, they had plotted in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to put their plans into action. And now they believed that moment had come. In the chaos that followed the assassination, they saw an opportunity to summon an ancient evil that would engulf the world in darkness. Their plan was audacious and terrifying. By combining elements of astrology, alchemy, and black magic, they sought to unleash a force that would warp the very fabric of reality, plunging humanity into a new dark age. The ritual itself was a horrifying spectacle. The members of the order, clad in black robes, chanted in a language long forgotten, their voices echoing in the ancient halls of the castle. As the night wore on, the air grew heavy with malevolent energy, and the participants became increasingly frenzied. Suddenly, as the clock struck midnight, the room was filled with a blinding light. The assembled cultists fell to their knees, their faces turned toward the source of the illumination. From the center of the circle, a figure began to emerge, a being of pure shadow and malice. It was the Antichrist, the embodiment of evil, and he had been summoned. As the creature approached, the cultists cried out in terror and excitement, for they had unleashed a power beyond comprehension. But their triumph was short-lived. The Antichrist, wreathed in darkness, loomed over them, his eyes burning with infernal fire. With a wave of his hand, he banished the cultists from the room, leaving them to flee in terror as he took his place on the throne. Thus began the reign of the Antichrist, and the world would never be the same. The effects of the ritual were immediate and profound. The veil between the physical and spiritual realms grew thin, and malevolent entities poured through, wreaking havoc on the unsuspecting populace. People spoke of seeing strange lights in the sky and of hearing disembodied voices whispering madness into their dreams. The very foundations of reality seemed to tremble as the balance of power shifted. Then came the Great War. As the armies of Europe clashed, the Antichrist watched with amusement, for he had manipulated events from the shadows, pushing the nations into conflict to further his own designs. He had become the puppet master of humanity, and the strings of war were easily pulled. Meanwhile, the members of the Golden Dawn, horrified at the consequences of their actions, sought to atone for their sins. Some turned to religion, finding solace in the belief of a higher power. Others delved deeper into the mysteries of the occult, seeking to understand the full extent of the evil they had unleashed. And so the world was plunged into darkness as the Great War raged on, and the Antichrist's influence grew, hidden in plain sight. He watched as millions perished, their souls corrupted by fear and hatred. The very essence of humanity was being poisoned, and he reveled in it. But as the war dragged on, cracks began to appear in his grand design. For as the darkness spread, so too did resistance. There were those who refused to bow to the Antichrist, who fought against the forces of evil with every fiber of their being. These brave souls, though seemingly insignificant, became beacons of hope in a darkening world, reminding humanity of its potential for good. Yet even as the war reached its bloody conclusion, the Antichrist's grip on reality remained firm. The veil between the realms was still thin, and the forces of darkness were still rampant. It would take centuries to repair the damage done, and to purge the world of the Antichrist, his influence. But for now, the battle was over, and the victors stood trembling on the precipice of a new age. They had won the war, but at what cost? The world was wounded, its people scarred, and the threat of darkness still lingered. But perhaps in the face of such adversity, humanity had learned a valuable lesson. Perhaps the true cost of war was not measured in lives lost or empires fallen, but in the darkness that it brought into the world. And perhaps, just perhaps, it was a darkness that could never truly be vanquished. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. And if you want to learn more about World War I, check out the series in the description. Thanks for watching.